How you feeling? Resolved?
What's that?
Are you thinking everything's resolved, working out well? The House is going to do their job?
Well, we'll see. We made some temporary headway, but we got a lot of work to do still.
Temporary headway, a lot of work to do still. Well then, why is Senate Majority Leader John Thune at the airport? Why is he leaving if the job he is paid to do is not yet done? You cannot leave on the eve of battle, and yet we've seen this sort of thing before. When things get testy for lawmakers, they tend to back away from the spotlight. The less they're saying and doing publicly, the less there is for outlets to write about and for commentators to talk about. Out of sight, out of mind. When Republicans kept getting booed and yelled at their own town hall events, they just stopped doing them. No more town halls, no more headlines about bad town halls. Some Republican congresspeople are planning to retire this year. Well, not just some, a record number of them, just fleeing government altogether, or at least their positions in Congress. So again, we're in the midst of another record-setting government shutdown, this time the longest partial shutdown in history, and our congressional leaders are leaving Washington. For where? Who can say? Lindsey Graham was just spotted in Florida earlier this week at Disney World. He said he was in South Florida first for a meeting, then he stopped at Disney to meet up with some friends, and then promptly went back to South Carolina, which I guess he wanted us to think is a good thing, but he really should have gone back to Washington, D.C. Easter is also this weekend, and the Congress people seem to think that they are entitled to see their families for the holiday. I don't actually believe that people necessarily need to earn their time off, their rest. People are entitled to rest because our physical bodies need it to function. It's not a privilege, in my opinion, and it should not be treated as such. However, there are cases when there is an obligation that needs to be filled. If someone chooses to become a member of Congress, if they campaigned for the privilege to serve the American people, then they should understand what that job requires. Sometimes the job requires sacrifice for the sake of those same American people that these Congress people fought so hard to represent. On top of that, there is a societal assumption that people who make more money or occupy more elevated positions in government or business work harder than people who make less money or fill less prestigious roles. But to suggest that people who work what some would consider to be more menial jobs don't work hard, that is ignorance. So while the Congress people who have done nothing to end the longest partial shutdown in our nation's history will get to spend the coming Easter weekend with their families or however they choose, DHS workers across the country are still obligated to show up to work and not get paid for any of it. They're fulfilling their obligations, so why can't these Congress people? Will the unpaid DHS workers get to spend Easter with their families? Even if they do get the day off, will they be able to put a feast on their family table, considering they have not been paid in over a month? The Atlantic wrote a piece on all of this, pointing out in the subhead that even TMZ is channeling the national discontent surrounding the shutdown and the chaos at the airports and congressional inaction towards finding resolution. And yes, TMZ has been posting pictures and videos of members of Congress in airports leaving Washington to go wherever for however long. We don't really know where they were going or what they're doing once they get there, because despite all of the eyes looking out for them, they're keeping very low profiles. Back in their districts, members of Congress, particularly swing seat Republicans, seem to be in hiding. Hardly any are holding town halls or other well-publicized events that could put them face-to-face with frustrated voters. We contacted the offices of more than a dozen House Republicans in tight re-election races this year. Only Republican Arizona Representative David Schweikert responded. No one else would agree to interviews about what they were hearing from constituents, nor would they disclose the events they were holding to solicit public feedback. Trump said he'd start paying TSA workers by bypassing Congress, so they've started getting something. But as the Atlantic piece points out, that only addresses the most visible and viral aspect of the shutdown. FEMA workers, the Coast Guard, etc. are still not getting paid, but again, they're obligated to show up for work because they are deemed essential. But even while the lines at airports are finally starting to go down, the people aren't necessarily settling down. The security lines had dissipated yesterday, a day after TSA employees began receiving back pay. Passenger frustration had not. Leighton Martin, a Republican from Phoenix who was flying to Salt Lake City, told us that members of Congress were playing with the livelihoods of government employees for their own political benefit. They're having like an ego party The 28-year-old fitness trainer said, "It seems very childish. Martin's rent is up $300 compared with last year," he said. "His cost to fly to Salt Lake was double the normal price, and his friends can't find jobs." And that's coming from a Republican. And David Schweikert, the only congressman who responded to The Atlantic, also expressed frustration with the general state of things. He told us that he views the DHS shutdown as a symptom of a larger unwillingness by Congress to tackle the nation's structural problems. He frequently warns that the Medicare Trust Fund could be insolvent in fewer than 7 years, for example. "I'm in a 50-50 district and I keep introducing bills to try to stabilize the debt, and I can't even get a co-sponsor," he told us. His constituents, he said, complain that their wages haven't kept up with inflation, so they are poorer today than they were 5 years ago and are stressed about rising housing costs and making car payments. And yeah, I think that is something that is incredibly relatable to many Americans. Our prices are going up everywhere we look. However, we are not getting paid much more, at least not to keep up with the rising prices. And so essentially we are getting paid less than we were just years ago. But even Schweikert, he is not even in Washington, D.C. right now. And on that, he said he would have been happy to stay in Washington over the Easter break if it had looked as though a funding deal was possible, but the votes weren't there. He placed blame on everyone, Republicans, Democrats, leadership, who refused to sit down and keep negotiating. One side is using their rage at DHS to raise money, and the other side, my side, is often terrified to actually have detailed, mathematically honest conversations about population and immigration. Schweikert insisted that he is still working during the break, attending both community and political events. He's not campaigning for re-election, however. Instead, he's making a bid for governor. When he announced his candidacy for governor last fall, the 8-term lawmaker deemed Congress unsavable. He's given up on Congress, and after serving 8 terms, one can imagine why that would be. How frustrating would it be in the cases where someone runs for Congress genuinely in the interest of helping to run the country and represent the people of their district, only to get to Congress and find that it is completely defunct, almost as if by design. I personally would not want to serve in this Congress, but I admire and appreciate anyone decent who does want to take on that job. In these next few coming elections, we've got to get better people in Congress. There's just no way around it. People don't like when progressives say things like that because it usually means that we also want to primary some Democrats who are just taking up seats and doing nothing with them. But I really don't know why anyone would defend someone who's taking up just one of a few hundred seats in Congress and doing nothing with it, or at least nothing good. All right, that's it for me. If you got anything out of this, please like the video and subscribe to the channel for more. Thanks.